Hello friends, I am Bishop Andy C. Lewter, and I'd like to welcome you to my video blog posting for this particular week. Now, this video reflects my opinion, and I hope that it will cause you an opportunity to think critically about the topic that I'm discussing. I would like to discuss a growing hostility that has invaded the ranks of our thinking and that has, in my opinion, a great potential for harm. Friends, over the last several weeks, we in America have seen an unprecedented animosity toward our Islamic brothers and sisters and neighbors. Now, there is no doubt that there is a wing of Islamic radicalism that operates under the Muslim banner, but to blame all Muslims for the actions taken by some radicals is as much to blame all of Christianity for the hazardous behavior of the Spanish Inquisition. When I think of the continued debate and exploitation of the proposed mosque in Lower Manhattan, also called the Cultural Center, and the proposed public burning of the Quran in Florida, it reminds me that the conflict that we're now seeing and the lines drawn in the sand between Islam and Christianity is a road that we have gone down before with terrible results. Even General Petraeus, our military commander in Afghanistan, has gone on record to report that the actions of Pastor Terry Jones of Gainsville, Florida, is not only irresponsible, but puts our soldiers in the Middle East in harm's way unnecessarily. Listen, friends, it is a blight on all Christianity that a pastor with a membership of less than 50 people can ignite a firestorm of epic proportions that cannot be retreated from once it gets out of control. Now, being a student of history, I'm well aware that we as a Western civilization have engaged in somewhat embarrassing assaults on our Middle Eastern neighbors in the past. Most honest scholars will tell you that in the 11th century, when Pope Urban II called for a crusade against Islam and attacked targets in the Middle East, it was not because of some real righteous indignation on his part. Rather, it was to rechannel the militaristic hostilities that was running rampant in Europe as they were warring against each other at the time. Pope Urban II, in an effort to quell the constant fighting that was going on amongst feudal lords in Western Europe, manufactured a conflict against Islam as a diversionary tactic. When Ferdinand of Aragon wed Isabella of Castile, and the two of them decided that a unified Iberian Peninsula would be in their best interest, the country of Spain was born. But part of the price that would be paid for such a lofty ideal was the utter destruction of the Islamic controlled portion of the peninsula called Granada. Unfortunately, history is littered with example after example where religious fervor and passion has been exploited by people who have a political agenda rather than a spiritual agenda. My concern is that we are allowing the current debate about a cultural center in Lower Manhattan to take us down a road that we have traveled before. Haven't enough lives been sacrificed in the name of religion for us to realize that to stir emotions of religious hatred and division only takes us backwards and not forward? Years ago, we learned that people of different faiths have the ability to coexist and share the same space without one feeling obliged to obliterate the other. Permit me to remind all of us that the founding of our country was a radical social and political experiment in the latter quarter of the 18th century. Now, friends, up until that time, the world operated on the assumption that each sovereign had the right and entitlement to decide what would be the official language for the territory that he or she presided over. In many instances, those who shared a different faith from the sovereign faced death, at the very least, severe persecution. But America was built on the notion that in the New World there could be a place where people would have freedom of religion that would allow them to pursue their conscience and heart without the fear that their spiritual and theological differences need not cost them their lives. America was also built upon the foundation of the separation of church and state, but also the high moral idea that religious freedom would be the law of the land, not religious tolerance, which was being practiced in most other parts of Europe. So, for over 300 years, America has proven to be a beacon light where what began as a social experiment grew to become the model for the world. If we allow the current climate of fear and hostility to cause us to retreat into reactionary behavior, we will be betraying the rich and noble history that so many of our founding fathers placed their lives on the line for. We are living here on Long Island, so many of us have a connection to the tragedy of 9/11, and I share the compassion and pain that still haunts so many of us who lost loved ones on that day. But friends, to set aside our Constitution, history, and heritage to appease a current temptation to retaliate against an entire religion for what radicals of their faith performed is for us to take the low road and not be what God has called us to be. While I realize that there is much debate on the topic and what I'm about to say, informed minds know that the God of Christianity, Elohim, and the God of Islam, Allah, are one and the same. I appeal to those with sincere hearts and level minds to rise above the superficial stirring of religious division and to live up to our calling to treat all people with respect and a healthy regard for dignity and their value as a human being. We are all part of the same family in the end, and that is the human family. Well, friends, that takes up just about all of my time, and I want to thank you for yours. Until next time, I am Bishop Andy C. Lewter saying that God loves you, I love you, and I look forward to seeing you soon.